Hi, and welcome to this video on Spline Kit Pro. Today's going to be a continuation of trigger nodes. Specifically today we're going to talk about how to send messages or events to other game objects from your game object that hit a trigger node on the spline. Let's just set this up. Let's say that we had two objects going along two different splines, and we wanted the first one to control when the second one started. So let's just set up that as a quick example. So we'll just create a couple splines here. Maybe just some sort of kind of straight line like that. And let's create another spline. Something just like that. Let's call this one, let's add a 2 at the end just so we know which one is which. And now let's add a cube to each of them. To do that, we'll add a spline animator. And drag the spline down there. Let's give this one, let's auto start this one and give him an initial speed of, let's say 5. Okay, and let's go ahead and create another cube for the other spline. And we'll go ahead and add the spline animator to it and put it on the second spline, just like that. Okay, and now let's say that we're not going to have this one auto start because we want the first one to tell it when to start. Okay, but we will give it a speed of 5 so that when it does start, it'll start moving. Okay, so now if we go back to the first spline here, let's go ahead and add a trigger node there. Come down here, add nodes. Let's say that when the cube hits about this point, we want the second one to start. So let's go ahead and add a trigger node there. And direction, we're just going to have them both going forward, so we'll just leave it as both. T value, in case you didn't know, moves this around so you can move it later if you want to, after you've placed it. What we really want to do here, though, is add a command. And open this up, and we're going to say set run. So we want to tell this other guy, number 2, to start animating along the spline when we hit this trigger. So we'll do that. And we're going to say, yes, we want it to run. And now we're going to come into receivers. This is where we set who gets this event. Now, we don't want it on ourselves. In this case, wouldn't matter because we'd already be running. But we're not setting this for ourselves. We just want to send it to someone else. So let's uncheck that one. And let's add another receiver. And we'll find it by the game object reference, which is our second cube here. We'll drag in there. So now, he'll receive this event when the first guy hits the trigger. So let's just go ahead and see that in action. Hits the trigger and starts the second guy. So there you go. Pretty simple. Okay. Now let's take another example. What if we have another game object in our scene that is not on a spline, but we want something that is on a spline to trigger something on him. Okay, so he's not on a spline. What you can do is, well, first let's just create another game object here. Let's just use this little skeleton guy here. Might need to scale him up a bit. Okay. So let's just say that when we hit this trigger node, we would like him to play some sort of animation. Okay, but he's not on a spline. So in order for him to still receive this command, we need to have something on him, a component on him that can listen for and handle those commands. So what you're going to want to do is you're just going to take this guy, and even though he's not on a spline, you're still going to add this spline animator component to him. Okay, doesn't mean he's on a spline, doesn't mean he's going to use any of that logic to move anywhere. He's just going to use this as a receiver. Okay, so now that he has this, he can receive these commands. So let's say that back here, or rather on this trigger node, we want to trigger him to, say, maybe play an attack. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll add another command here. And we're going to say set anim trigger. And I believe I have one set up already called attack. Just to make sure, we can look and see that we do indeed have an attack. And it's set up in his animation controller here. So that should work fine. So again, set anim trigger to attack, and now we want the receiver. We don't need it ourselves, but we want it on the skeleton. We'll find it by game object. Drag this in here, and there we go. Okay, so now when this first box hits the trigger, the other box should start moving, and this guy should switch to his attack. Let's just see that in action. And there he went, attack. Just like that. Okay? Simple as that. And that's how you can use these trigger events to send to multiple objects. Now, again, if we look over here, you can add as many receivers as you want. Okay? Again, you can find it by the game object reference. You can find it by its name in the scene or by a tag. Okay? And you can also remove these once you've added them, or, so you can edit this. We've talked about this omitters in another video, but just as a refresher, this is just another list similar to this one of things that are on the spline that don't trigger this event. So we could have 2 cubes on the spline, for example, both animating, and let's say that we just wanted one to trigger the first one, right? We would omit the second cube and we would just add it here and find the second cube that's on there and drag it in there. And that just means he won't trigger that event. Okay, so there you have it. That's how you send events to other game objects. I hope you found this video useful, and if you have any questions, comments, feedback, feel free to hit me up at splinekit@gmail.com. Spline Kit is just one word. Just let me know, and I'll see if I can help you out or create a video for you or anything along those lines. So, all right, thanks for watching.